If you've been following the news lately, or even the last couple of months, you most likely would have heard the whispers of recession. And if you've been following the tech industry, you would have seen tech giants like Apple and Microsoft laying off more people this year. Now that begs the question, how safe is a job in cybersecurity, especially during a recession? So that's the topic of this video. Let's talk about the impact of recession on cybersecurity and how you can avoid this, or at the very least, reduce the chance of you being laid off. Okay, so oftentimes you would see news headlines saying this tech company has laid off hundreds of people, and then another one laid off a couple of thousand people. But when you actually dig into it, you don't really see much about cybersecurity jobs, right? A lot of the ones I often see that gets laid off are recruiters, UX and UI people, middle management, and of course, software engineer. And if you're a low performer, you're gonna make the list as well. So does that mean cybersecurity is safe from recession? My honest opinion, I would say it's generally more on the safer side, and here are my reasons. If you think about the structure of an organization, you will usually have departments like HR, IT, finance, accounting, customer service. These departments form the basic requirements for a company. Now, cybersecurity usually sits in the IT department, and they're a cost center. That means cybersecurity is not there to earn profits for a company. They're there to upkeep the security and basically keep the lights on. Now, if we were to take software engineers on the other hand, for example, then this would fall under the revenue generating department, especially in a tech company. If we increase the number of software engineers in a company, that means more products for customers, which means more profits overall. Conversely, if we increase the number of people in cybersecurity team, that's only going to increase the cost. So by this logic, companies would usually keep the resource in cybersecurity to an acceptable minimum from an economical perspective. Because if they don't, then they might risk being non-compliant to standards and end up risking the entire company as a whole. So when we think about it from that way, if you already have a job in cybersecurity, that means you've made the cut for the bare minimum. Unless you really suck at your job, there's a really low chance they will lay you off. If you're a software engineer on the other hand, your job will be on the line as companies tend to sacrifice some profits in the form of layoffs in order to stay afloat. Now this leads me to my second point, which is the increasing threat in the cyberspace. As you've probably seen a lot on the news, there's always a company making headlines for data breach, adding to the fact that threat actors are getting more sophisticated with improving technologies such as AI. With AI now capable of generating better deepfakes and voice cloning, it makes the situation more complex when dealing with these kind of threats. For a security breach to happen, all it takes is just one person to fall for it. Now, as you can imagine, as the threat landscape expands, the demand for cybersecurity professional increases as well. When you think back to how ChatGPT was first introduced to the world, new positions such as prompt engineers were created to facilitate this gap. So I wouldn't be surprised if there will be new positions in cybersecurity to combat threats specifically to AI. This will all lead to demand of cybersecurity jobs to continuously increase in the coming years. Alright, now that we've touched on the topic of AI, we know for a fact that a lot of jobs are being lost to AI and automation. The most common ones I've seen are data entry jobs, admin, customer support, and sometimes even front-end dev jobs as well. For example, there's an abundance of website building services that incorporate AI to help you easily build a functioning website in minutes. I still remember coding up a simple website when I was learning HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and that took pretty long. So with that said, do I think the same thing will happen to cybersecurity jobs as well? My answer is a solid no. Even junior level SOC analysts won't be replaced. When you're dealing with cybersecurity, the decisions you make will impact the rest of the organization. So actions with such a heavy impact to the organization simply can't be automated away. For example, if you have some alerts and logs showing a high position employee might have been compromised, you need a human to actually verify it, then personally action the containment yourself. The sole reason for this is to prevent false positives. AI is good for processing through huge amounts of data and learn from it, but there will always be times where it lacks context. Like if a user goes overseas and logs into their account outside of the local office hours, the AI could classify this as malicious unauthorized activity. And if the user was automatically blocked, then this will impact whatever work they were doing, causing disruptions and a bunch of headaches. Okay, now that we've talked about my reasons why I think cybersecurity is generally safe in a recession, let's talk about how you can improve your chances of not being laid off. Let's imagine an analogy first. Imagine you're moving out of your house and you need to do a bunch of cleanups and decide what you need to keep and what you need to throw out. When you're in that position, what goes through your mind during this process? Like a couch, for example, brings value to your living room and is comfortable, whereas an old chair might not be usable anymore, so it will be thrown out. Taking that analogy and applying it to an organization, What makes you stand up compared to other people? What value do you bring to your team that they really need and cannot afford to lose? We need to approach this from a cost perspective as well. At the end of the day, anyone is replaceable to a certain degree, but how much will it cost for them to make a job post, interview, and then do the training and onboarding so they're up to speed? And this is also not including the risk that sometimes the new hire might have faked their way in and they don't actually perform to expectation. This is why I always preach about continuous learning and upskilling yourself. If you're just cruising your job right now, doing the bare minimum just to clock in and clock out day by day, you'll have a higher chance of being on a list of layoffs. Whereas if you're showing initiative for self-learning, like picking up new knowledge and skills in a different space, this brings value not only to yourself but to your team and in the organization in return. As an example, I work in the blue team as a SOC analyst, and what I bring to the table, besides the usual stuff, is my software engineer background, which plays a big role in automations. And for me to continuously improve, I'm currently upskilling myself on the red team side, so stuff like pen testing and ethical hacking. This will allow me to be that team member to have both experience in offense and defense, which creates further value to what I can offer for my team. When you continuously improve, whether in your current space or a different space, you soon realize that you'll become the SME or subject matter expert for that particular space. And that will make you a valuable team member, and your company will have a more difficult time to lay you off. Now, of course, there are definitely cases where none of what I said for the past couple of minutes apply. A company could completely go insolvent and you're gonna lose your job either way. When that happens, look on the bright side. It was out of your control, but you know for a fact that you have valuable skills and knowledge under your belt. And when you apply for a new job, you'll definitely be more confident. That's it from me. Hope you guys found this video useful, and for those of you worried about losing your cybersecurity job in a recession, hopefully this video eases your concerns. Anyway, thanks for watching.